I recently learned how to use wood insert nuts and would like to share this with you. On the left is a nut for inserting into the face, and this is held by its threads. On the right, the nut is located on the reverse side, and this is held by the stop in the material. I will show the process using M6 nuts, so the dimensions refer to such nuts. At first I did this too, but believe me, it's better to use a different method. By the way, these nuts can be easily removed and reused elsewhere. But the flat part of the nut has a certain thickness, and there are times when this should not be visible above the board. In this case, you need to make a socket for this part of the nut. You can make a socket for the nut after making the main hole. But you can't get the exact center. It's not scary, but it's not aesthetically pleasing. So I do it differently. First, I make a hole with a thin drill to match the diameter of the Forstner drill bit central tenon. I am using a 2.5 mm drill. Now I will use nuts and 30 mm plywood. The Forstner drill is now positioned precisely on a thin hole. Then, along the same thin hole, the main hole is made for the washer cylinder as well. Excellent. In this way, I made the shaft fastening when making a vise. The face nut is simply screwed into the hole with a hex wrench until it stops. But it makes sense to vary the hole diameter depending on the density of the wood. For M6 nuts in plywood, I make an 8 mm hole. In soft pine, you can make 7 to 7.5 mm. But if you fasten such a nut at the end of the wood along the fibers, besides, if the thickness of the board is small, then you should carefully approach this issue so that when the nut is twisted, the board does not crack. I made a special drill for such places for an M6 nut from a feather drill. I have applied this in one of my projects when inserting these nuts along the glued plywood grains. It is better to fix the nuts in such places with additional glue or epoxy. For this I use cyachrine glue with an activator from the manufacturer Somafix. For a tighter fit of the top board, you can grind off the top of the nut with a file. Thank you for watching. I wish you creative success.